Americans, of course, are marking Memorial Day today with heartfelt ceremonies to honor service members who sacrificed everything for this country. Those sacrifices still a vivid memory for veterans who were captured during the Vietnam War. 50 years ago this month, 591 newly returned POWs were special guests of then-President Richard Nixon at the White House. And those reunions became a time-honored tradition for the group. Many of the remaining POWs gathered again last week at the Nixon Presidential Library near Los Angeles, and they say this could be their last reunion. Carter Evans was there.
Each one of these men was a prisoner of war in Vietnam.
3, 2, 1.
Together again at a reunion half a century in the making. A parade of veterans hailed as heroes, a word that still makes them uncomfortable.
POWs, we don't want people to honor us or call us heroes. We're not heroes. We just served our country and we got back with our families.
Lieutenant Commander Mike McGrath was a Navy pilot when he was shot down over Vietnam. He spent 6 years in captivity at the infamous Hanoi Hilton, enduring brutal interrogations.
They tortured us. They broke every single one of us.
I got a wife and 3 little girls back home. I certainly wanted to see them again.
When Navy pilot Lieutenant Jack Inch was shot down, a captor amputated his injured thumb with no anesthesia.
No need for that. You have caused pain in our country. Now it's time for you to suffer.
The torture was just too painful, and so I gave in. And I felt very guilty about that.
Did you feel like you betrayed your country?
I did.
Devastated, Lieutenant Commander Charlie Plum eventually confessed to a higher-ranking prisoner. The response?
Hell, everybody broke. There's not a man in this prison camp who was as strong as he wanted to be.
They communicated at great risk through sign language and a complex Morse code.
That's us, tapping and tap code through the walls. That was our line of resistance.
That's what got us through. One guy would be down and you pick him up.
When the surviving 591 Vietnam POWs were released in 1973, they came home to ticker tape parades, much to their surprise.
It was somewhat confusing, because, we were the guys that didn't accomplish our mission.
Never has the White House been more proud than it is tonight because of the guests we have tonight.
President Nixon invited all of them to a party in Washington, still the largest dinner ever held at the White House. Recreated right down to the china and silverware this month at the Nixon Library in California.
This is the book I gave President Nixon personally.
Now, a retired Captain McGrath documented his time as a POW with drawings that he turned into a book displayed along with other memories.
This is the actual uniform you wore.
That's the actual uniform.
After returning home, 90% of the POWs stayed in the military, and many found success in civilian life.
There's 27 of us made Admiral and General.
Now, mostly in their 80s, they worry about a country divided once again, repeating mistakes.
Didn't we learn anything from Vietnam?
Their lesson.
We're certainly much stronger collectively than we are individually.
So here we are 50 years later, we're still sticking together.
You didn't give up.
We didn't give up.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Carter Evans in Yorba Linda, California.
Oh, boy, those very famous flights out of Vietnam, the 591 who came home. Yeah. We remember today the ones who did not. But the celebration, total silence until the flight lifted off and exited airspace of Vietnam and headed toward America. That's the moment when relief was allowed to rush in, and there's just joy. Families waiting for them.
Yeah, too remarkable. I think the fact that 90% of them chose to stay in the military after their capture speaks volumes of their sacrifice and service. And Tony, you're right, 58,000 perished in that war in Vietnam. And I'm happy that finally in this country they're getting their due, because after the war and in the waning days of the Vietnam War, they were not treated very well. Though these guys received the ticker tape parade, it wasn't always like that for everybody else.